Come on. Hey now, back from vacation, Dr. Producer Suzanne. Let's see if I got soft over break. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know what to have done. I've been without you for 2 whole weeks. I can't wait to hear some stories.
Best 2 weeks of your life.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey everybody, welcome to the one, the only No Vacancy Live, not recorded anymore. Why? Because I'm back in the saddle again. We got Dr. Producer Suzanne here for just a minute or two because I needed a little hand holding to get us back in. Of course, I'm Glenn Hausman. Our guest just popped on backstage. This is exciting. Suzanne, how are you doing today?
I am doing really well. I'm excited to see that you did not fall into a volcano and that you didn't get lost, I don't know, skydiving. I'm really hoping you ate a pineapple. We haven't talked about this yet, so fill us all in.
I had pineapples, I had papayas, I had all the important fruits that start with the letter P. Don't you worry, Dr. Producer Suzanne. I took care of all that. What a great time I had. I'd like to send a big thank you to the good folks over at Outrigger. I got a chance to spend a couple of days at their hotel in Waikiki after a major renovation that's nearly complete. Looks absolutely gorgeous, Suzanne. The ability to turn a structure that was built in 1952 into something that's relevant 70 years later. Kudos to Jeff Wagner and the incredible team over there. Also got to stay at the Kona property that they have. They acquired that last summer, and they're just getting ready to do a massive renovation on it. And I can't wait to see what happens there, Suzanne, because, you know, older properties that got great bones, it's almost like sky's the limit on what you can do, right?
That was the picture that you ended up texting me, right? That looked pretty awesome, that property.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool. It's like an old, type of cement structure from, I guess, the 1960s. I don't know exactly. I should have asked when that opened, but it's so really cool. Everything is just done to perfection over there in terms of the structure. Can't wait to see you. Jon is here. PR people, Nikki, don't worry. He's backstage. We're going to bring him in a second. But before we do that, I want to thank the good folks over at Radisson for continuing to support our program as they make the transition to be part of the Choice Hotels family. Soon, your investment with Radisson will go even further with the good folks over at Choice. Brands like Radisson Red, Radisson Blue, Country Inn and Suites. Can't wait to see how they're going to be turbocharged to help investors make more money. Learn more about them at RadissonHotelsAmerica.com/EN-US/development. Suzanne, anything else you got on your mind before you have to skedaddle?
I am just thrilled that you're back. I'm excited for our upcoming schedule of shows. We've got a lot of fun that's going to be happening. Obviously, Anthony's not here today. He's going to have some travel fun stories, I'm sure, to share when he returns. And with that, let's bring on our guest so that I can make my eloquent.
All right, I'll let you go while I bring in our guest, Mr. Jon Slavet. And of course, he's CEO of Sentral. Jon, how are you, man?
I'm good. Good to be with you.
Hey, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. See you later, Suzanne.
All right, take care.
Have a good one. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining, Jon. This is excellent. I'm curious to talk to you because I've been following this story for a while now, and that story being these alternative accommodations. I've been in it now 6, 7, 8 years, somewhere along that line, back probably when you were over at the WeWork people and that sort of thing. So it's been fun to see how all of this is kind of coming together now. So to orient people, tell us a little bit about Sentral and what makes you guys special and unique.
Thank you, Glenn. I like your background.
Hey, thank you very much. I focused really hard on making sure I took care of that today. Which property is this of yours? What's that?
You're putting my background to shame.
Well, honestly, Jon, I like to have guests on here just to make them feel shame and embarrassment for being anywhere on here. It's a great way to get good ratings.
It's a great way to start the conversation. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. And I should say thanks for having us because Sentral is a national team effort and soon to be a global team effort. But you know, we're the modern property management company, and the first residential brand is what we're building. And I can tell you all about that. But yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, and we will get into that because we've had other companies on here before. Most recently, our friends at In-House have been here. So it's everyone's kind of playing in that same sort of sandbox, but everyone is approaching it a little bit differently. Different models, different points of view, and of course, as this business becomes a little bit more mature, different tiers of product that are out there. So how do you see fitting into this overall market? And just so you folks know, there are places like Atlanta, Austin, Chicago, LA, Nashville, Seattle, and more.
Yeah, absolutely. We're in 9 markets and lots of locations, lots more coming. What makes Sentral different, and when I talk about being the modern property management company and the first residential brand, is that what we're doing is redefining home. So we take over an asset. Our first customer is the owner, right? And then our second really important customer is that consumer who pays to be in the community, regardless of their length of stay. So what it means to first partner with owners is to understand the interests of Class A multifamily apartment owners. Okay, these assets are their babies. These assets are often held in either by big institutions or families. And they take the health and profitability of these assets really seriously. And they want a partner who understands how to welcome a customer, whether it's a 12-month lease or a single night stay. Number one. Number two, it means that you're replacing an old traditional property manager that doesn't understand this modern consumer, but you're taking over their baby. Right. And you've got to understand how to serve that long-term resident equally as well, right, as that single night guest. Okay?
Right. And that can be kind of challenging because the long-term resident has a completely different point of view than that 1, 2, 3 week kind of stay.
Absolutely, they do. And so when you take over one of these assets, again, someone's baby, right? This is someone's special asset. They're looking for you to optimize the experience regardless of the length of stay. And what makes Sentral different as the first residential brand is that what we've proven in our first 2.5 years in business, and by the way, the Sentral brand just turned 1, which we're very proud of on July 19.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much. What we've proven in our first year with the Sentral brand and first 2.5 years of being in business, which no one else in the market has proven, is 2 things. The first is for the owner that we can take one of these assets and increase their operating income, their NOI, 10% or more after our fees.
Right.
And I'll tell you about how we do that in a minute.
Yep.
The second thing that we've proven is that we can sustain and grow superior reputation scores, whether it's reputation.com. We're about an 830 on reputation.com right now. We think we'll be close to 900, which is world-class by the end of the year. And we're now approaching 90 on the Aura score, which is Jay Turner is the leading survey and research company for multifamily. And when you get to 90, you're in the elite. Right. It's very hard to be at 90. It puts you in the upper echelon. And so we've proven we can make more money for owners, and we've proven that the customer in our buildings, whether they're staying for a year or 2 or a night, are really happy. And the way you do that, it's a multi-layer process of SOPs, brand standards, training, auditing, and culture.
Yep.
So that's what makes us different. No one else has done that at scale in these Class A, best located multifamily buildings. And if you listen to some of the other players in the market, and by the way, I think there's going to be a great weeding out the next 18 to 24 months in this market. I think that we're very lucky to be, backed by the best in the industry, capitalized the right way. Yep. Capital's hard to come by. And if you don't have a track record of proving to owners you're their best partner and you can share the economic upside with them, you're not going to sustain. You're not going to have the opportunity to offer this great experience to the customer.
Okay, so how does this work for me as an owner of a building? What type of percentage of spaces are you looking for? How does it all kind of work in a nuts and bolts kind of way?
Yeah, great question. So what we do with a new owner, and we're expanding with many now, and we'll be announcing them over the coming months. In fact, we just announced a great development deal in Brickell in downtown Miami a couple of weeks ago with PMG.
Congratulations.
World-class development shop. We work with owners, and we essentially underwrite several scenarios with the asset. We look at a base case, a medium case, and a high case in terms of increasing revenue. And those cases are based on what percentage of the asset do we furnish, and then what length of stay do we offer within that furnished inventory, right? And it's all about that collaboration with the owner, their risk profile, and also the local market dynamics.
Right.
What is the demand? What are the ADRs and RevPARs? All the stuff that you'd expect.
Right.
So we then lock into that plan. And what I can tell you is that on average, we're probably taking, 20 to 33% of that asset and making it flexible. And in some cases, much more. So for instance, in Miami, in the Wynwood neighborhood, our community there is 95% furnished and flexible.
Holy cow.
And
theoretically, the reason why owners would be getting involved in this, you'll tell me if I'm right or wrong, is because they feel that they could get a higher yield at 10% after your fees and stuff like that they wouldn't have been able to achieve by just having traditional rental opportunities.
That's correct. And so if you're and but let me qualify that Miami example.
Of course. Yeah.
It's a special case. Miami is one of those cities where with a multifamily building, you can technically do any length of stay in all of the units. The regulatory regime is much more free than other cities.
Understood.
And what we've seen there is we've maintained very high occupancies, very high RevPARs. And in those cases, we're increasing owner NOI 20, 30, 40 points compared to operating traditional 12-month leases. But on the whole, 20, 30% of the asset is furnished and flexible. That means 70 to 80% is a traditional 12-month lease. And that gives you the solidity and the risk mitigation for the traditional owner. And the reason they want to do this is a couple-fold. You mentioned yield, 100% correct, especially in the market we're heading into.
Right.
You paid a lot of money for an asset. Or you want to underwrite to be competitive, to get your loans in place and to prove a business model and to acquire an asset and to run it profitably. And you need more yield. And it's not just about cost cutting. Yes, we have to manage costs efficiently, but the history of the multifamily industry and traditional property managers is, I can cut costs for you, Mr. Owner. It's not enough. It's not an interesting business model for the future.
John, I don't see this much as a cost-cutting thing, although that is something that you'll do by bringing in systems and stuff like that you can spread apart a global operation that you're building over here. But I think it has to do more with if you're renting it shorter periods of time, you could get more money than if you were doing it on an annual lease, for example. So you got higher top side and an ability to lower expenses, so the spread is much more profitable, I would think.
You said it very well. It's really about increasing top line revenue.
Right.
You do have to make some investments in the controllable operating expenses that may be different than a traditional multifamily operation, but not material and not anywhere compared to the significant revenue lifts, 30, 40, 50 potentially percent or better compared to a traditional multifamily operation. That's pretty serious. And also right now seems to be the right time to be in this sort of business as so many markets are seeing monthly rates go up. I mean, to say, I think Orlando, for example, is up 25% over the last 6 months. Don't quote me on these figures,
I've been on vacation. I don't have any statistics in front of me. However, I've seen a real big increase. So that's going to give you, pretty lofty sales, I think, to be able to come in there and help these properties earn more money.
Well, it's a great point. Here's the caveat, though, and here's what owners need to keep in mind.
Yeah, of course.
Every traditional property manager in multifamily has been a bit of a hero in the recent past because the rents have been going up so fast and so much that you could, if you could fog a mirror and fall asleep at the front desk.
Right.
Which unfortunately is some of traditional.
John, I'm giggling because I'm thinking about, sales professionals selling rooms and spaces in 2019 and a few years before that. Basically, they all look great just by picking up the phone. Now
that's right.
They have to get in and work.
Yeah, a lot of traditional property managers in multifamily have looked really good because you've had the rebound since COVID. You've had huge increases, but we're now going into a different, choppier, more uncertain economy.
That's right.
But what's also true is the demand for short stays and that mid-length of stay, which we've not talked about yet. We have three customers.
And what is the definition of mid-length for you?
Well, I can tell you, and just to finish off the answer, though,
please.
and then I'll
please. Yes, sorry.
Is that if you're an owner, you need to adjust your thinking on where your unfurnished rents are going right now and figure out a strategy to still increase your revenues. And that's where a company like Sentral can come in. But we have three customers. We have someone who's a traditional 12-month lease. We have someone who's coming in for an average of 70 days. This is someone who's a corporate relo. This is someone who's on a project in the city or someone trying out the city with a spouse, girlfriend, or partner. And then we've got someone staying an average of 3.5 nights. And that's either leisure or business. And we're an alternative to a high volume hotel. We're giving you 750 square feet, a washer dryer, a beautiful community, in many cases, a huge pool deck. And in a neighborhood that's not your high volume, core of the CBD, where you're next door to, pick your either boutique or, tower hotel brand. And most of our customers don't want to be in that neighborhood, that traditional hotel neighborhood.
Right. And that's a really interesting way of approaching this. So if I'm a guest and I'm staying for a little period of time, what is the experience for me going to be like? Are there people on site? Do I have to just figure out how to get into my own, or are they going to hold my hands?
Yeah, well, it's really a mix, but it's on your terms.
Yeah.
So to answer your question specifically, we do use technology. We also have tremendous teams that are on site. Each of our locations has a GM.
Right.
Our locations have experience associates, and experience associates are bright, shiny people who are cross-trained to welcome you, give you a tour if you've just walked in, help you with service issues. We also have our building services teams that are on call to fix issues, mechanical issues, technical issues. So, we've got dedicated teams on site. When you make a booking with us, if you're staying for one night, that's obviously going to be a different experience than if you're staying for 12 months.
Right.
So if you're staying for a night, you're going to sign up. You're going to receive communication. You're going to receive your code for getting into the building and up the elevator and into your unit. And each building with each owner may have slightly different building technology, but it's all smart technology.
Right.
So it's really a combination. Each community has its own flavor and its own series of connectivity and community events. So we might be welcoming you to something that's happening on the rooftop in Miami, for instance, if you're coming in and you might be sitting on a chaise lounge next to someone visiting from another city or someone who's living in the community for 2 years. So it's really a combination of self-serve technology and human touch, which of course is the future.
It certainly is. And to validate what John just said here, everybody, is I when I was in Hawaii over the last couple of weeks, one of the portions of my trip, I stayed at a condo section. Thank you, Craig Sullivan. Really appreciate that. And in order to get in and out of the rooms, I just went just typed in my code and I was in and out. the best part was I just had a photograph on my phone of it, and so I wouldn't have to remember it, and I didn't have to worry about anything. It was easy to get in and leave, and all of that kind of stuff. I didn't have to worry about checking in. I didn't never check out, so it was pretty simple. So I'm a big fan of these particular types of business models. I'd be curious to talk to you a little bit about your career leading up to this. You worked with WeWork for a period of time, and to me, that was really the prototypical example of where all of this is heading into the sphere that we're talking about right now. And I'll tell you, Jon, I remember the first time I walked into one of those places, I was agog, really blown away, because it was so different than any of those other office type scenarios that had existed before that. Before that, it felt more traditional, stuffy, reminded me of my dad's law offices back in the 1970s and stuff like that. But I walked into WeWork, and I'm like, hey, I lived in Brooklyn at the time, and I'm like, hey, this feels just like Brooklyn. This is awesome. And I like the beer, and I like that you could change, you get different areas that you want. And I really think that you could have taken a lot of lessons from that model to apply to something that's super viable in the hospitality industry today. How did that and other experiences in your life prepare you to be a CEO today in this vein?
Yeah, well, great question, Glenn. And by the way, Adam and Miguel, the co-founders of WeWork, met in Brooklyn. If you know that.
Oh, did they? I didn't realize that.
Backstory, they did. There's a whole story around that. And I learned a lot working with and for them for 4 years. That set me up for this. And I'll try to tell you about what I took that we're doing and what I took that we're not doing.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff that you learn that you want to repeat that works, and there's stuff that you learn that you want to avoid, right? And apply to your next business model. And I think we are applying the best and leaving behind the things that don't matter. The things I think that are really positive are investing in company culture. We have a very strong focus on our employees, the connectivity among our employees, always explaining our why, our vision and mission. We get together twice a month as an all company on Zoom and also in person pretty often. And we talk about why we're doing the change that we're making, what it means to reinvent home.
Right.
And how we deliver that.
Right.
We have employees talk about it. We talk about anecdotes and how we're actually making this thing happen for the consumer and for owners. So I think number one is culture. I think number two is a focus on community. When I was at WeWork, we did tens of thousands of community events a year. I co-led the US business. And so community is really important. Early on, we launched a community app at Sentral. We have about a 65 to 70% participation rate in each community.
Wow.
And it means that I'm moving into town and could someone tell me about the city? I want to buy a couch. Does someone want to sell me theirs?
That's pretty cool.
Organize an interest group or others interested.
So you're really just narrowing it down to the property levels, and something like that'll help foster relationships within that particular building.
It is at the property level, Glenn, but we're going to look at expanding that so that if I'm just coming into a community for 2 nights, could I connect into the community as well? We're planning to extend the idea of community.
So as you continue to build a base of people that are going to rely on your studios and apartments traveling throughout the world, they'll probably want to have that association. Where now, as you're just getting going, it's probably more of people that are staying a little bit longer are tapping into it. And I bet a higher percentage of the ones that aren't using it are the folks coming in for a day or two. That'd just be my guess.
Well, that's right. And that's well said. And today you have to live in the community to access the community app. But we're thinking about, would we extend it to someone coming a couple nights? Because that's kind of cool if I can connect into the community when I'm there. And here's the biggest thing that we're not doing.
Right.
Actually, 2 things that based on my WeWork experience. The first is we don't sign any leases. So Sentral has management agreements with owners. We have a base management fee, and then we take a percentage of the upside revenue we create. We don't have any lease obligations on our balance sheet. That's very different than almost all of the other companies that are squawking out there.
Yes.
In flexible rentals or living.
Just so people know, there are definitely companies out there that will rent the entire building under a mass lease agreement. and then they'll be responsible
Correct.
for all of that.
They're correct. And the reason that's bad for the owner is two reasons. First, most of them have no credit, really. The second is that they're taking all the upside on the arbitrage between that month lease and the ADR distributing for short stays. So the owner gets none of that. And the third is it creates a completely inflexible inventory for the owner.
Right.
So it's not a good model for the owner. And then the final thing is just focus. You know, when you get a lot of smart people in a room, you have a lot of ideas. When I was at WeWork, I think there were 20 to 30 acquisitions, somewhere around that number. Some made sense, some didn't. Stay focused. If your core market is big enough, do just that.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So those are really the lessons from.
That's a hard lesson to keep because, John, there's so much pressure to continue to build, and it leads a lot of companies to lose that focus and start going into areas they shouldn't of. To take something completely non-related, I think of grocery store and food brands where they have a master brand and then they keep I'll just say, I don't know what the financials are, but Oreo cookies, because we all like that. They have the Oreo cookies, and then they have 50 different types of Oreo cookies. And it winds up, I think, diffusing the type of a brand and could, in the end, hurt overall sales of that type of brand if you lose focus on it. Not to say that the good people at Oreos are having any problems, but they're always trying to, have a lot more to their product line than just what their core product should be.
It's a good example, and I like Oreos, so I like Numinous.
They're great. Actually. And by the way, everybody, double stuff Oreos are like 98% of the single Oreos when it comes to doubling them. So it's pretty right on. Now, if you want 3 types, the mega stuff is almost 3 times the regular Oreo thing. This has been tested. I watched a couple of YouTube videos on this, John. So I just wanted to get that out there.
That is some inside intel, Glenn. Right there.
That's why people watch No Vacancy Live every day, John.
I'm gonna share the factoids with my 3 kids. But what I would say is that I think that until you're dominating the market you're in, and if it's big enough to accommodate your growth, just do that. So, for instance, in the U.S. renters spend $250 billion in rent a year, $250 billion a year for the kinds of assets that we can bring into the Sentral network. Well, that's big enough. Thank you. We don't need to run around finding lots of other business models.
Right. Yeah, I think that's great. All right. One of the things that you mentioned a few minutes ago is you said you get together with the team on Zoom calls a couple of times a week. So my hunch is that you probably have a lot of remote workers, which kind of plays into what you're creating here, as well as the way society is moving. A lot of your workers, maybe they're doing what you people are doing. They're becoming digital nomads. They can work anywhere in the world. So how does that philosophy play into the folks that you're looking to stay throughout the world as you build your business at all of Sentral's places?
Good question. So I'll answer that to the Sentral team and then our customer. For the Sentral team, it's really a mix. So we've got coming on 250 people on the Sentral team across the country, between our communities and what we call our home team. That's sort of the centralized team. And we give people the freedom to work how and where they want. We also offer some touchdown spaces across the country. So I'm in San Mateo, California. Right. We have a major center in Denver where we have a touchdown space actually in our Central Union Station location.
Oh, seriously? You're down there? Oh, God.
We are. We're right next to
I want to come work over there. Yeah.
Historical train station there. It's a very cool location. But we let our people work how and when they want. We do get everyone together twice a month on Zoom. I get my direct reports together in person at least once a quarter in one of our cities, if not more often. And then we let our leaders decide how and where they want to bring their people together. And, we find that balance.
Right. All right. And let me tell you, hoteliers out there, just to underscore this particular note, remember what we've been saying here on No Vacancy Live as we start to go through this great shift on how we work. There's opportunities out there for you to get business from a lot of these companies that have gone remote and are bringing people together for these monthly, quarterly meetings, whatever they might be. So it's a good potential revenue stream. Of course, only in cities that Jon's not located in right now. I don't want to step on your toes over there, Jon.
Very much. But
So,
we're not.
yeah.
But Glenn, one point, we're not.
Yeah, please.
We're not competing with hotels per se. And I know one of the questions that may be on your mind is, what's going on with the industry in the future and how do we fit in? I think that a rising tide will raise all boats. It's a massive market, and it's really about choices for people based on their preference.
Yeah, for me, it's not an issue of you competing against them. For me, it's an issue of when are the major hotel companies going to see what companies like Sentral is doing, some of the other ones out there, and then try to mimic that. I think that's kind of where we're headed to. There's a lot of separate businesses out there. It takes a long time for the major hospitality companies to get on board with. But right now, I think for companies like Sentral and others, you've got clear runway to really go and establish yourselves before the others start to wake up. They're just waking up now to the whole idea that Airbnb exists, for example, right? So you've got plenty of time to make things work. I'm curious though. As we shift in society and as we're becoming digital nomads and as we're taking control of the way that we want to live, work, and as you said, when we work, not just where we work, how are you going to be retaining that culture, which is so critical to bond everybody together in order for you to have ultimate success?
Well, it's multi-layered, multi-factor. I think the first is that the company values are not just written down somewhere, but they're brought to life on a day-to-day basis through action, recognition, communication, training.
Right.
And we have 3 core values. Everyone in the company could tell you. The first is elevate humanity. How do I make you feel? The second is make each other better, which is a culture of feedback. And the third is great outcomes matter most, which is getting stuff done and putting points on the board. Those 3 core values, we talk about them every all company meeting. We recognize them. We give monetary and recognition rewards for them. So that's number one.
Right.
I think number 2 is leaders who model them and live them. I think number 3 is just building a fabric of connectivity across employees. Whether it's our pride group, our women of Sentral, we have different groups that bring people together around interests that are important. And celebrating. We've quieted some of our travel with the COVID surge, but we've still brought the whole company together in Zoom to karaoke and do trivia and just share some, a drink at home and a laugh. And then it's just promoting mentorship. Ongoing training and development. You just have to do all of these things, right? You have to have all of these arrows in your quiver these days.
Right. Yeah, you definitely do. And I like that you use that particular example because so many times people think that you have to do something one way as part of building as opposed to building a kit of parts that create a successful go forward strategy for a company. Jon, what's your favorite thing right now today about building Sentral out to be a big competitor in this marketplace?
My favorite thing is bringing great people into the business, working alongside people I respect and trust, because at the end of the day, companies are people and conversations. Yep. So building the culture, continuing to attract and retain the best people, because that makes it more fun and inspiring. That's number 1. Yep. Number 2 is this opportunity to redefine home. So we see ourselves creating a new category. We call it Home Plus. Imagine the word home with a plus sign after it. And if you look at the logo for our company, Sentral, the T is actually a plus sign right there. And the idea is that your apartment home is your starting point for adventure. So it's your home base. But when I travel for work, when I travel for pleasure, I've got this network of like communities that I can connect to. The team's going to feel comfortable. The property is going to be in the best location. That community event's going to be one that's compelling for me. So building a brand, and then changing and transforming multifamily economics. being the best partner for owners. And I believe that within 5 years, Sentral will be in the stadium naming business in the U.S. and
awesome.
Well on its way to being a significant brand. I'm not sure it'll be the one of the top cities, but it could be a secondary city with a great sports team.
All right. I don't know. You also might be able to get a good deal if the crypto market keeps going the way it has been. You might be able to be in Central LA at a particular no longer Staples arena.
We'll see. I'm not sure I want to pay that price.
No.
I think we can get a lot of legs out of
I
a great
hear
city
you.
like a San Antonio, or there are many great cities.
I was thinking you could do something really cool with the good folks over at the Savannah Bananas. Have you heard of them?
Inform me.
Check them out, everybody. Go check Savannah Bananas. This owner has turned a team in I believe it's not affiliated with any of the major league teams. It's a separate league, but they created something there that is super exciting and fun and different than what you would expect with a typical baseball experience. Kind of how you guys are doing things completely different than a typical hotel experience.
Yes, and there's MLS and there's also USL.
Yes.
United Soccer League. And so soccer in the United States is obviously a massive growth market that's attracting families and individuals and all backgrounds. So we'll definitely be looking at that in the future.
Yeah, John, that's a great idea.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a great idea because soccer's really, really taking off right now. I remember, I was born in 1970, so I played soccer all throughout my childhood and went through the first wave of Major League Soccer. You remember, I was a big Cosmos fan back in the day, and then we had indoor soccer, and I was a New York Arrows fan, and then everything kind of fizzled out there for a little while. So I think this time it's real. And I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of other cultures, bringing it to the forefront here in our great American melting pot society, which is awesome. Super good. Before we wrap up, John, anything else that we missed that you want to make sure that we talk about today? I'm a little soft because I've been lying on a beach in Hawaii for 2 weeks.
That sounds really good. Well, I actually just returned home from what I would call a working vacation. I took my 3 kids on the road solo to Massachusetts, nice. Where I grew up, and spent some time on the beach and spent some time walking around in Boston on Newbury Street, where it was like 102 degrees on Sunday. So I just returned from a less restful vacation. But no, I would say, Glenn, that this has been great. I appreciate your time. I'd love to keep in touch.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll be up in Boston. I got a great speaking gig with the good folks over at Honeywell on August 23rd. Hopefully I'll get to see some folks over there. John, I'll be in touch with you. I really like what you're up to, and I'd love to talk with you more offline. Thank you so much. Until then, guys, check out Sentral.com, Sentral, for those listening on the audio feed. Thanks, John. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Glenn.
Take care. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for dealing with me on my first day back here at No Vacancy Live. We've got a lot of great content coming up. I'm super, super excited. Sorry, Kyle. I missed your question. Like I said, I'm a little soft today. We'll be back tomorrow. As soon as Anthony's back, we'll talk a little bit more about what we missed over the last couple of weeks. On Friday Night Audit, I'm sure they'll have to pull it out of me, but I'll share more about my travel experiences, what it was like being up at the top of Haleakala, what it was like snorkeling at the Molokini Crater, all that kind of good stuff. And I'll maybe share some of my observations over next week about how important it is to combine nature with hospitality and how it is a virtuous circle of love. All right, everybody, thanks so much for being here. Download the show on audio. Find it on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all those kind of good places. He's at Anthony Hotels, even though he's not here today. I'm at Troubling Glenn. All right, guys, I'm off to go see Fish at the Jones Beach Amphitheater. Hope to see you guys there. If not, you snooze, you lose. See you guys tomorrow.